What's up, Change the Channel podcast listeners? My name is Megan Grace, and this is another episode of Change the Channel podcast. Welcome back to the show. This episode, unofficially, but very much intentionally, is brought to you by this case of throat coat tea that my friend Kevin sent me because your girl completely lost her voice for about a week and a half. And on this episode, first off, I am just celebrating the amazing healing power of the body and also how fascinating vocal cords are. And what it feels like to be so profoundly supported by people that love me. For example, shout out to my friend Kevin that sent me this tea, got on Amazon, made sure that I got it, and he's just traveling in Japan. And my other friend Erica reached out to her friend that does vocal coaching and gave me some exercises. And shout out to my housemates that were kind and spoken all sorts of code with me while I was on vocal rest. Because as you can imagine, someone that has a podcast and is a triple air sign and just my personality is not someone that does quiet very well. And so it turned into a beautiful moment for me to shift into changing my own channels. So on this episode, I'm just going to give you the free ad lib of all of the words that feel like they've been just stashed and stored in my head, what I learned from a week and a half of vocal rest. One of the things that I learned is that the immediate channel that started was, okay, this is interesting. Which quickly shifted to, oh no, this is funny. And then shifted to very quickly, maybe after I don't even know, it was maybe 48 hours of feeling this way. I was just sure my voice was never coming back. RIP, I had said too much in my 39 years of life, and I had been officially cut off by the word bartender. And it was really amazing how quick the isolation of not having my voice was, and how quickly it spiraled me into a feeling of real hopelessness, actually. And it's interesting, even as I say that out loud now, as my voice is making her mighty return, it was such a real and deep channel. How often does that happen for you also, where the world slows down, or something that is your superpower, the thing that you lean on the most, that people know you for, they show up, expecting to have this impact and influence from you. And what happens if that gets taken away, even temporarily? I had kind of a low-key, I just really got to look at myself and look at what I feel my worth is, what I feel like I bring to the world if I don't have a voice. And the other thing that I found really fascinating is that there was a channel in my head that if I did the right things, the saltwater gargles and the lozenges, and I didn't talk for 20 minutes, and I was drinking tea and water and, essential oils and steam showers and just all this stuff. I had this other channel that was running is I'm doing everything right. I deserve an outcome and I deserve it to happen now. And that was surprising to me because as a practitioner, I speak a lot about people and their bodies getting to take the time that they need. And I realized, wow, there is a disconnect within the grace I give others and the grace I give myself. So those were two of the channels that were running. And also there was just this like almost like an overwhelming desire to find connection, to find creativity of connection. I was basically glued to my laptop, typing on either WhatsApp or text messaging, writing different things. I got a lot done, actually, and was really tapped in with people when I wasn't using my voice. And that got me thinking about, how often we lean on our strongest space, and what else could be overlooked in the process. And when that thing gets removed, even for a small amount of time, it opens up the opportunity for curiosity, for creativity, for I got real clear about what it was that I wanted, and I was really craving connection. And Lord knows, I was willing to get it. I was willing to find it. And I also learned the power of what full and complete active listening could be. I had the privilege of being on a couple coaching calls with some clients, and I realized that I had a finite amount of sound that my vocal cords were going to offer, and I was really intentional about when I chose to speak. And when I did that, it moved me out of a cycle of, almost like the tennis back and forth. Someone speaks, you answer, returning fire. And I really just sat in a space of active listening and receptivity. And then the things that I did choose to say landed in a different level of potency than I've really ever felt myself. And the reaction I was getting from my clients was really similar. And so through this process of, basically muted microphone for myself, I learned so much about, number one, valuing the voice that I have. Number two, this almost running tally of what's fair, what I feel like I deserve. When I do something, I expect an equal and opposite reaction coming back to me. And a lot of times that expectation leads to disappointment. Instead of seeing what I bring to the world as passionately neutral, I bring an impulse and I'm curious about what shows up. I leave space for what could be. When I assign value to it already, as it's out there in the world, it offers the opportunity for so much disappointment. Whereas with this, I realized I get to tap in, I get to be intentional about what I share, and I get to believe that the rest of me is enough. The other thing I was learning, I don't know if any of you have kind of this feeling of oh, I said I would do something. I already committed to this thing, and something has shifted in my life, and now I cannot fulfill that requirement. What that does somatically in my body. I had committed to coaching another kind of big, intensive weekender that is just by far the most profound and powerful work in the world. And I know that I'm a person that would not be able to just come in at 80%. I need to be able to go 1,000% if I'm going to be in that space. And so I was sitting with, what does integrity mean in this moment? And how do I get to powerfully choose in or powerfully choose out of of this opportunity? And I realized that there's a very different vibration that comes into my body when I am operating out of a sense of joy and all in. My body is a hell yes to whatever we're doing. I feel my body open. Every part just feels open. It's easier to breathe. It feels like there's flow. When I'm unclear or unsure, or my body is giving me a no signal, I feel constricted. There is constriction that happens. And even if my brain says, you love this work, you love what you're doing, you already said yes, you could let people down. What will people think? Blah, 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 blah. All those channels start. Somatically, my body had made up her mind. She had another idea. And when I was out of balance of listening with what it was that she was trying to tell me, my body said literally, shut the F up and listen to me. And being as how my voice was not working, I actually sat with myself and was like, I get to make a clear request, and I also get to renegotiate my ways of being able to support this work that still matters to me. And so in that, I realized that instead of seeing the world as black and white, I'm either in or out, I'm responsible, I'm not responsible, I'm letting people down, all those channels that start, the people-pleasing bullshit. I looked at it instead of what is it that my body is actually very open to? And my body was deeply open to what it can mean to support. And being in support felt so aligned and good. And so I stepped into bravery and let the leadership know, I unfortunately am not available for this, but I am available for this. And I'm feeling a hell yes for that. And as soon as I shifted my focus into what my body was saying yes to, my voice started to come back more quickly. Finding flights became easier. There was options, flourishing things that just seemed like they popped up around me, and there was so much less effort. And I realized that part of this persistent part of me that has gotten so much muscle memory used to just forcing my way through, if I see something, it might be hard, but I'm just going to do it. What I'm asking now is for myself to sit with, what is it that my body is actually sharing, and what part of this is a hell yes for me? And how do I get to lean more into being someone that is doing hell yes style work and life and love and relationships and all of that? Can you tell that this girl has been on vocal rest for a little bit? It is so good to be with you all on this microphone in this moment. So I'm just going to take a breath myself, noticing how excited I am, and realize that one other kind of analogy and metaphor that had shown up for me when I was working through this time of quiet. I realized how often, excuse me, there is this feeling of oh, well, I have enough to go around. I have enough words to go around. I have enough, I don't even think about it. I do not honor or thank my vocal cords nearly as often as I could and or should for how they show up for me. And instead, I had this feeling, the analogy I was imagining is, at a bar where they have top shelf whiskey, it is up high on purpose. When you look at it, your eyes elevate, your head elevates, and there's this this understanding that if someone is reaching for the top shelf, even the bartender is having to kind of stretch themselves to get up there. It's an elevating thing. And I realized that sometimes if I see what I have to offer as well whiskey that can be easily given away, shoot as a shot, something just really quick, almost disposable, then even if I know that I am top shelf style whiskey, I water myself down to make it available just on request and free open bar style, And what I learned with this time of my voice going away is that I can make a massive impact on people by holding the standard and vibration of top shelf style living and being. And I may only pour 2 or 3 glasses, with a nice little ice cube in the middle, maybe some, garnish kind of something on it, make it look pretty. But like my impact in a day may be 2 or 3 glasses full for 2 or 3 people. But it feels so good to not water it down. It feels so good to be living in the lavishness of my actual authentic vibration and frequency. And that felt like such a shift, such a channel change for me that it's not always quantity. It actually can be quality that makes a big bang for its buck. So losing my voice, moving through that whole process, invited an initiation of a worthiness conversation that if my voice had just popped back or, excuse me, if I had not had it sitting on the sideline, there is no reason that I would have thought about it. I just would have kept operating in the same way that I do. And so I started to shift from being bitter, resentful, a bit of a drama queen, thinking that literally my voice was never coming back. God, I cannot even tell you how much that felt real. And I shifted into gratitude for what it was like to be able to be in silence. And I noticed that my body actually started to rest when I said, okay, like instead of hustling during this time, my body is asking me to cocoon, to winter a little bit, like wintering, and to rest. And as soon as I gave in to that way and stopped watering myself down, spreading it as much thin, I tell you, I was negotiating with myself. Like, I've given 20 minutes of silence. Will you give me 10 minutes of talking? The body was like, this is just not how any of this works. Like, stop, literally stop. And it felt so different. It felt like a different level of love and power and intentionality have returned back to my life, back to my frequency, back to my vibration by leaning in and actually being a steward of this body that I have instead of running her ragged. And yeah, so hold on just a second. I'm going to drink a little more of this tea. She's asking for a minute. And so with that, I would just love to offer for any of you out there that, number one, have a channel running, that you have one asset, there's one thing that you are good at, and you like, that's what people know you for. Invitation to take a minute and sit with, who would I be without that? Even maybe try it on for like, an hour. See if you're not being that for an hour and see what else comes alive in you. I do not recommend a week and a half, but who knows? Maybe some of you are like me and need a little longer in in the learning lab of life. And then, so yeah, like check in with the amount of value that you put on a specific trait or specific quality that you offer, and see if it can shift to being a neutral thing instead of holding so much weight. The next thing is to, if you are a person that struggles with accepting care, as I am still just enjoying this tea, every time I brew another tea bag, I imagine the care and belief and love that my friend shared by choosing to send that to me and to be in motion, showing love and care. And if I had said, oh, don't worry about it, I can just go to the grocery store myself, I would have circumvented this beautiful opportunity for giving and receiving. And my voice got to be loved on and cared for by somebody else. And that's noteworthy. So if you are in a channel of, I do shit myself, I take care of myself, I don't have space for other people's impact or care for me, invitation to look at that and shift and see who has been offering you throat coat support tea and you have been keeping them at bay. I bet that they are craving an opportunity to get close to you in this way. And then the other channel of watering down your wisdom or your magic, thinking that if you're not impacting the masses, you're impacting no one. If that is your channel that's running, invitation to look at how you can begin to see yourself as top shelf, high prize, high price whiskey, and move through life that way. See what changes for you, even if it's just for a day. Say, I am top shelf motherfucking whiskey, and strut a little bit and see what shifts. Yeah. And also, if you have made a decision that you are, going to support something, or you feel like you've made a commitment, and you check in with your body and your body is saying something different, invitation to sit with, what is it about whatever that opportunity was that delights you and lights you up? And then tell your body that. Say, okay, like, we're excited about these things, and feel into it. Like, does your body open and expand, or does it contract? We get to listen to the wisdom of our bodies. That's how we stay healthy. That's how we stay most optimal. And also, if your body has all of a sudden decided that something gets to shift, be brave. Use your voice. Show up to the people that you have shared that you are there to be with, and see if there's a renegotiation available. We get to live in the land of asking and sharing and brave vulnerability. And that is how literally all of us get to show up and thrive. So thank you for being a part of this verbal flurry of coming out of the the gates of rest. And I'm so grateful for you for being along for the ride, along for the journey, and for the magical and incredible ways that you are changing the channel in your everyday life. With that, I am signing off. I'm about to go drink some more of this tea, feel full and warm and love from the inside out with this tea and love and these learnings. And with that, my dear friends, this is another episode of Change the Channel podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in more of the wacky wonders of the things that I'm up to as a somatic business support consultant, or a somatic body worker and coach, please feel free to check me out on the Megan Grace MVMT. I am the queen of Lioness Life and somatic body worker of the Megan Grace movement. I would love to help you rewrite and tell the stories and change channels of what's going on in your bodies, in your lives, and ultimately rewrite your futures. All right, babes. Sending you so much love, sending you so much appreciation, and go forth and change some channels today.